Jews are not Jews even if they say that they're Jews. Controversial as it may sound, it relates respectively to various religions because these modernized versions neglect the reality of avoiding premarital intimacy and treating each other as sacred in a sustainable culture where people will be able to trust each other, that they're not going to seduce one another's future spouses or brothers or sisters or so on. And so when a Jewish person says that, well, I'm Jewish, that, or I'm a Muslim person says that, that does not mean that they will avoid premarital intimacy. They might be in a gray area where they're sort of avoiding it, but if you put that before marriage, it means that it's more important than marriage, which pleasure is not more important than marriage. Why would you want to attach yourself to somebody and make it even more difficult to discern whether or not they're the right one that you want to please? It's the opposite of seeking pleasure. It's wanting to please someone, wanting to pleasure them because you care about them. So I'm going to break down certain points that are deceptive in society. Sometimes it's our own deception, but the people that you're around, say you see people routinely, let's say that you go to a gym or you go to your work or school, anywhere where you see a lot of people, but they may not be of the same like religion or culture as you. Like, so you may be physically attracted to some of the people there, but they're not people who you have a cultural commonality with. So the biology, all right, what our bodies do is it tries to get us to want to interact intimately and mate. And what our job is to regulate that and to seek space, seek a sense of space, some gender separation, some minimal talking, just waves or friendly nods or smiling glances to the opposite gender, stuff like that. So it's like, you acknowledge each other, especially if you're in a professional environment, or school is basically a professional setting, but a setting where you want to see that each other are present and honor that, but you don't want to talk and overly engage. And so that's 2 points. So the first one is that when people say they're something, a religion, they're not necessarily that. And number 2 is that your biology will try to trick you to be, use some type of rationale to get you to mate with whoever's around you. So that's why it's so important for us to remember who we are. We are, if we want to be in the frequency of love and feel like self-love and feel like we're in a loving place in our life, and we have to keep reminding ourselves of who our future spouse is. And try to do the math on it, a guy just went ahead of me. He what do you call it? He passed me on. So it's dangerous. The way to properly deal with somebody who's like driving fast and about to pass you is actually to slow down so that they can cut quickly in front of you, so that they're not, oh my God, so that they're not trying to there we go, there's another one, so that they're not trying to, they don't hit somebody coming on against you, right? All right, so back into it, right? When you do the math, there is math. There is an amount of money that, for example, I plan that I want to save up in order to start a family. I don't want to start a family before then, and also you got to figure out like the health insurance stuff, and if you want to save for here's another point, point 4, if you want your wife to have C-sections when she has kids so that it's less painful for her, I think it's makes sense, something to consider. But I think the way it works is the hospital will make you pay like a lot for the first one, but then in the future they make you do the next ones. They have to do it. So if I'm not mistaken, it's something like 30 to 50K for the first C-section. All stuff to think about, right? But I want to really think about the mathematical process here of, and by the way, when you socially and energetically, it might seem like the woman's giving more when she gives her body to the man and the man does not give a commitment in exchange. But the man actually ends up committing, because any guy knows, including me, who's been with a woman, that any extra time you have, spare time, and then any extra spare money, you're going to likely end up using it to give to that woman. And if you are trying to be and you give your soul to a woman, essentially a woman is, in my opinion, more of a blank slate, more like they benefit from men's soul energy. And so the man loses just as much, even if he doesn't commit. And so, that being said, that's the amount of time. Like, it's gonna cost you a specific amount of time and money that you need to, it's gonna, like, roughly 5 years, for example, before you're ready to get married. If you're on a certain savings goal, monthly, yearly savings goal, it'll take you a specific amount of time, right? So that's the amount of time roughly before you can get married. And so that's like another point. That's like point number 5. You want to do the math, but let's recap here. So first of all, when people say they're religious, especially during these times of tension where there's like people talking about like their race, their ethnicity, their religion, their country of origin, and there's all these like competitions or comparisons. It's really simple. A person is either interested in premarital intimacy or not. That's the easiest gauge, I think, to tell whether a person is essentially a good person or not. And also, it's not only how they for themselves, but if they're protective of their children and trying to help them not get entrapped into entanglements and premarital intimacy dysfunctions. So that's point number one. Even if people say they're of a religion, don't trust them. Look into how they actually are. Point number two is when a person is in an environment, whether you're in an environment, your biology is going to encourage you to try to mate with someone, and vice versa. You got to watch out for people trying to seduce you. And as a bonus, the woman is always the one who's supposed to run away. So this whole idea of women being like men and they doing the chasing or whatever it may be, that's masculine. And it's okay if you want that dynamic and you admit it, but if you want that, then you should be willing to admit it, and that you want a more masculine woman, and then you want to be the more feminine man, for example. And I've had men admit this to me, particularly men who have had, quote unquote, seduced lots of women, and they just become feminine because they're not leading with the masculine. By default, if you're in a quote unquote relationship, partnership, whatever nonsense generalization that means, it means that you are. It means that the woman is leading, because unless the man is explicitly leading, and that's like the plan, the woman ends up leading because they talk more and they just have a certain way of, constantly shit testing, So, all right, all that being said, right? You've got your, remember to decipher what a person's true, whether they're avoiding premarital intimacy or not, as their true definition of whether they're good or bad, or their religion. Then you've got watching out for whenever you're in an environment, because the biology will make you want to mate with someone. Then you have what else do we got? We got then the math, right? The math on whether someone is how soon is it going to be until you're ready for your spouse, and avoiding any time. Remember, time is money. Think of your time as money. Chart it out like money. Like when you chart it out on your calendar, block it out. It's like times of when you when you when you're gonna be spending on people. It's like, yeah, you're gonna have to be really conscious of that and do calculations of how many months it'll take you to save up to be ready for a wife and children, and also think of other details, like if you want her to have C-section or whatnot, that'll be an expense. So thanks for considering these hard discussion points, and I'm up for you and I talking more. So leave a comment, and thank you very much. Aloha.